Okay. Again, I say welcome, my friends, to another episode of John Sports Corner on the Bone Media Network. I'd like to thank our viewers who have been such loyal viewers who have been sharing our program across the world. And there's over 114 countries that have been coming to the Bone Media Network. Um, and sometimes I'm surprised myself at how fast SOSOFAT has grown. Again, you can listen to this program 24/7 on SOSOFAT TV.com or television channel, as well as on sosobone.com, our website. And we have the program in both places so that if we should by chance have our YouTube channel go down, you're still able to watch the program on our website. Again, I say thank you, John, for dedicating yourself to our diaspora and to our world in documenting sports as we are looking at it through our eyes in the diaspora. And again, thank you for all the guests that you have willing to come on the program and help us to create the history of our sports. Thank you so much, John, and over to John's Sports Corner.
Thank you so much again, Trevor, and a very good afternoon to our friends and family. And thank you for visiting John Sports Corner over the last few months on the Bone Media Network. But before we speak again to our special guest, Mr. Lenny Taylor, let me invite you into the Winner's Circle radio store in the Bone shop and shop till you drop. There are t-shirts there, mugs, backpacks, sorrel, and of course, the great Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. So get a couple packets. Coach Extraordinaire Lenny Taylor, welcome to John Sports Corner, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure. We go so far back in central Brooklyn that whenever John calls, I'm going to be there.
Well, you know, let me gloss over it, Lenny, and then we'll fill in the spaces. From the field at Wingate High School to New York City Community College to LIU to the Cosmos to coaching across the globe. Let's start with what made you interested in football.
Jay, I remember that the longest memory I have is the schoolyard in Jamaica, where the population of the school played with one small rubber ball, and a recess could be very effervescent because you're looking forward to run around to play against the whole population of the school to see who can keep that rubber ball dribbling the longest. I think that's where it got my interest, and I decided that I want to play this sport. The only problem, John, is that I wasn't very good. And when it moved on to selecting a primary school elite group of young players, I'm either pushed in the goal or didn't get a chance to play. So I think that's where my determination came from, that, one day I'm going to be good at this game because of the rejections that I get from you play keeper or you don't play today. So I think that's where it's all began.
Well, I have to say, Lenny, you were lucky to have a rubber ball. We used to get an orange juice box and mold it into something like a ball to play with during recess.
Correct.
But certainly a successful high school and college career Talk a little bit about that, Lenny.
Well, I left Jamaica at an early age. Parents, traveled to New York City. No choice but to come to New York City with them. And so after Trenchtown Comprehensive High School, the first year, they decided that I should come to meet them in New York City. Uh, so I got to New York City around 1975, went to boys' high school, not the boys and girls, the boys' high school
Mm-hmm.
on Marcy Avenue. And I always brag to my friends that, yeah, it's just down the block from where Jay-Z grew up, on Marcy Projects. Yeah. So came to New York City, played high school, and I finally get a chance to play. I didn't have to beg a game anymore. I was given a game. And I decided that I would make the best of it because this is the first time I am selected in a 11. So we played there, did very well. Maybe I did well because there was not such a large amount of good players, early days of New York City. And we just evolved into something that we did every day. And we decided that this was going to be a vehicle for college. And we worked hard, played in the snow, played, on the patch of snow fields. And thank God somebody saw me doing that, Wingate High School, and got invited to go to New York City Community College. And at that point, it's like, well, it's no turning back.
Lenny, you talk about playing in the snow. I remember when I first came here, and I was playing in this league in Brooklyn, and we got to the playoffs, and this was like September now, late September. And the first game, it was a bit. I have never played in such cool weather, in shorts.
Yes, sir.
And in the beginning, it was really a challenge for me to strip down to go out there in shorts to go and play in that weather.
Yes.
How did you adjust to playing, in the cooler months?
I think it was a necessity. Well, remember now, we couldn't play baseball. We don't know how to play basketball or football. And so we had to do the best with what we had, which is soccer. So I guess the rivalry of the young boys who mainly were from the Caribbean, different islands, and a few kids from South America and from Europe, as no natural kid from the US never played at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't do anything else. So they always tell me, as you get started and you start running around, you won't feel the cold anymore.
Right?
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But one fact is we had to play.
Mm-hmm.
And we played in the days where um, I played in 0 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we played in the days when they did not have 32 degrees below, you can't play. I mean, if it's above, then they'll let you play. Those days, you had to play. So it
What let
evolved, and after a while, we just played without thinking about the cold, and
right?
until we're trying to take our stuff off.
Mm.
After the game, when we stop moving, oh, it's really, really cold.
You're right. Lenny, what led you to coaching?
Well, it's at LIU being the captain, you verbally you have to be involved in the game. But it really happened when we get to the Cosmos, when we found out that, the players are Pelé, Beckenbauer, Carlos Alberto, Bogušević. The players were players who played across in the old country and was outstanding, as the marketing strategy was to bring fans to the game. So the American bred players had little chance of playing or playing a lot. There's a dear man who is a LIU alumni, and he says, well, Lenny, his name is Ray Kliveka, was the coach of City College of New York. Says, come over. I have a lot of Jamaican players, and you will help me with them because, sometimes they can be very trying. And you being a Jamaican, you might be able to help them. You've played here, everybody knows you. So after the first year, he says to me, I think you should go to the coaching school and try to get a license. And I says, well, yes, that sounds good. And I remember I took his advice and went to do the C license. That was 74. And when I saw how it was put together and how informative you had to be to become a coach, I think it excites me. And since the C license 1974, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And up until today, I have not stopped learning about the beautiful game.
Mm. And you mentioned Carlos Alberto. I actually not only met but interviewed him while he was with the Cosmos. As a matter
Okay.
of fact, at the time I was working with the radio station WLIB,
Yes.
and there was a co-host there, Pat Atwell, had a sports show. God bless his soul. He has passed now. But
Okay.
Pat was bringing in Carlos Alberto, and Pat came to my office and said, John, can you join us in the studio to meet Carlos Alberto and talk soccer? So, then I went in and we sat down and we spoke soccer. And one of the questions I asked him, I said, Carlos, which team was better, 58 or 70? Immediately he said 70. And then I started naming the 58 team, and he looked at me quizzically and said, oh, as if to say, oh, this guy knows something about soccer. And then he had one of those little, what do you call it, postcard size pictures. So I asked him to autograph one for me. And he said to me, no, no, no. I'm going to send driver to the car to get a big picture for you. So I got a big picture with Carlos' autograph on it, which I still have.
Of course. He's a generous. He's a generous.
Yep. What are the licensing stages, and where are you in terms of licensing now as a football coach?
Well, the licensing stages goes up from CBA, and there's also one other step that is brought in called the pro license. I was involved with the licensing system in the United States from 1978 when I earned the A license, and worked for the US Soccer in that program. Evolved, went to the Caribbean, and did some work in the Caribbean with coaching and training of license back in the earlier days. So now, my recommendation, if you're involved in soccer and you're teaching youths, I recommend that you have a license because it gives you, number one, a lot of knowledge, and it gives you the opportunity to teach different age groups because all are not taught the same. And if you really want to be not just a parent coach, you should be someone who go all the way up the ladder so you can bring the right information to our community, as we are specifically speaking more to our community this evening. If you was a player, you might not be a good coach, or you might not be one who is helping the youth. So irregardless of what level you play, if you're going to be involved with the youth, you should go certify yourself and have a better idea of how to teach the different ages, what they need, where to accelerate before they get to a certain age. So I can't encourage the community more than, if you're involved, please go out to the coaching schools, get the license, because you bring more information to our community.
Well, Lenny, let me tell you this, man. You just taught me something, you know. I didn't know that coaching youth depend on the ages and the different levels. That there were different levels of coaching depending on age. I really, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yes, it's like going to elementary school. The kids get elementary education. They go to middle school, it's stepped up a notch. And the foundation, which is built at the elementary stage, you can build now more advanced information. On into high school and college. And as soon as you go up, you have to change what you're doing, because each age group deserves to be taught, so they will have the bridge that is ready for the next age. So while we are at that, I will just mention about the TDS, Technical Development Scheme, which is what FIFA has done now with leadership of Arsene Wenger, the great football mind from Arsenal. They're moving around the world now to make sure that every confederation is teaching between the ages of 12 to 16, to complete a curriculum, so that when they get to 16, they will have the 4 pillars down pat: head and fitness, technique, tactics, psychology. When the boy gets to 16, he's ready for the under 17 World Cup. If he's not prepared by then, we don't believe that he'll become a good soccer player. Has the potential to be a pro, has the potential to play a Division I football player, soccer player. So it's making sure now that the kids are taught between the age of 12 and 16 all the necessary things to give him the fundamentals of him building that at 16 years old.
You have close to 50 years, I guess, now coaching experience under your belt, Lenny.
Yes.
Where do you build now from that experience?
Okay. Okay, John, just repeat the question again. 50 years in.
Yeah. How do you build now from that?
Well, I have learned the game, I've played the game, I've gone through the changes, I've seen where it has changed. And no, the most important move now, it's called brain-centered football. And the brain-centered football is playing the game in the brain, which means it's not what you do with the ball, it's what the brain tells you to do based on the situation that's around you.
Mm.
So we're not teaching the kids or teaching players to do tricks, but teaching them how to think. Think fast, make decisions, and every decision that you make as a soccer player, there should be a why. Why you do this? Why? So that's where it's going. And I am humbly following, the leaders, because FIFA is a multi-billion-dollar business, and they do a lot of research and R&D, research and development.
Mm-hmm.
And, they spend a lot of money to get it done. I am more concerned of having this information get to our community where we can build a solid base for the future. And this is what my major concern is, not necessarily winning matches, but exposing the game in the right way to our community.
Lenny,
And
Lenny, John and I have this conversation on many occasions where I say it's not whether you win or lose. it's how you play the game.
Lenny, and I tell Trevor, when I stepped on the field, I stepped on the field to win.
Well, you both are right. You both are right. That we're only now, after 16 years old, we move in your direction. Up until 16 years old, we need to move into the next direction so we can have that foundation so we can win for a long time.
Okay.
And you coach, you oversee both boys and girls, Lenny.
Yes, because the fundamentals are the same. You see, heading, passing, shooting, dribbling, ball control, tackling, screening. The fundamentals are the same. You might have a difference in speed, but you can acquire technical competence to do the same thing, boys or girls. And as long as we have them developed prior to that 16 years, then we have a chance of having that 1% maybe get into professional football. Again, earlier I said it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
That's right.
Just the fact that we are somewhat around the periphery of it. So not until we get our good coaching, exposes the kids, to good technical development at a young age, then they stand a chance to delve into this multi-billion-dollar business.
In growing up playing the game as a youngster, I remember one of the things coaches used to try to drive into my head, you talk about the brain game.
Yes.
Is that you must see the pass before you get the ball.
Yes. Absolutely.
I guess that is part of the brain training.
Yes. Yes. And they have come up with all kind of ways of training so that the memory and the application of the memory, which is repeated in training, and the decision making is made at the right place at the right time. So the whole game has changed. It's become an academic game. Now, speed.
No, go ahead.
Speed has been increased, improved, because they have found so much more scientific ways of having players fit. Yeah. The technique is going to come and go. each generation has the technical, they can do stuff with the ball. But now it's more specific. The brain and the foot has to come together in making a decision that will help the player or help the team. So the training and preparation is a little bit different than it was in the old days. No more running laps. You know, you don't play in a circle. You know, no more of doing hard physical training for young kids who psychologically or physically are not prepared yet. Now we use the football to do most things and accomplish whatever fitness and whatever technique is necessary. The ball is being used. And this is why a little bit more science, because you know it's perfect. I mean, it's no beginning or no end, it's infinity.
You know,
So,
John, I remember when running laps was punishment.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny you say that, you know, Trevor, because you know, Lenny, you know, I played for a few years with a club in Jamaica, Cavalier. And I remember when I went back to Jamaica, 71, and David Bernard, who played for Jamaica, was he had left he was in the military and he left and he came to Cavalier. And I tell you, sometimes when coach would have him lead us, because he's now a trainer too, professionally. So
yes.
when coach would have him lead us in warm up, you know, I used to say to him, I said, boss, I forgot to work tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it was like punishment.
I said, I'm not in the military.
It was like punishment, used to be.
Yeah. And but talk about how the game has changed. I have a theory about the changing of the game though. Now, you see a lot of passing in the defensive third around the left to right, middle, you know. And I just feel that this is a more defensive game than, say, going back into the 70s when the wingers are whoever used to attack the defense. You know.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The game has changed somewhat. And there's a higher concentration of the thirds, defensive third, middle third,
Mm-hmm.
attacking third.
Mm-hmm.
And where their tactics, where the coach's tactics lead them based on the opponents, whether he's going to, you know, make that pressure up in the final third, or he's going to allow them to play there and take space and play in the middle third and prepare that area before the defense, you know. And the jobs are so important now. Of course, coaches make a lot of money, and but coaches are hired to be fired.
That's
So,
right.
so you're making sure that you're not fired too soon, you know, into the contract. So, yes,
Funny, that just seems to be part of the professional landscape because it's true in basketball, in the American football, in the baseball.
so
Yeah.
you have to try to stay there a little bit longer than the next guy because
Yeah.
this is just the way the business are. So the creative part of the game, which we grew up with, we grew up with that, and it's not there. It's been done, of course, but you don't have these glorious, glamorous players. I think the last couple are dying off now, and you're going to still see players of stronger and fitter because that allows the coach to keep his job. You see, so So the days of the great number 10, you know, the Gainchas and that sort of stuff. Yeah, we're not going to get too many players ahead of the ball, but we've got to concentrate on counterattacks, and how we make goals, because this is how we can, if we monitor that well, we can keep games, on the win side, and it is good for our job.
But Lenny, let me say, unlike the days when they stick you in goal because you couldn't play. these days, most occasions, especially after a penalty shootout and those things, your goalkeeper is one of the most important person on the field.
You're correct, and it has become a much more scientific position, and the goalkeeping has gotten to a higher level. Yeah. So another thing that the goalkeeper didn't do so well back in our days is that they didn't use their feet well. Today, it's mandatory that you have to use your feet well, because the amount of balls that you're allowed to play, you have to play like a field player.
Yes.
You see,
And
so
as you say, in my day, Lenny, you pass a ball back to the goalkeeper, you worry.
of course. And you also worry whether you'll stay on the field because your coach will be mad.
You know, but as you say, yes, you see the good pass is part of the game now. He's like the part of your defense now. You pass it back to your goalkeeper and he looks for another pass.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed when a defensive player is in trouble, he pass the ball to the goalkeeper.
Absolutely. Because he now can use his foot. Before, we would worry when the ball gets into the final third, get into the goalkeeper. You pass it back to him, your coach will holler at you to take it out.
Yeah. That is very much so.
The game has changed. The game has changed. It's more of a chess piece now. Yeah.
Geometry, fastening triangles.
Absolutely.
Football has taken you places where you may have not normally visited. What is that experience like?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's great from a little boy from Trenchtown, who, maybe only knew some of these places in the history class or in modern history at Boys High School. To travel 8 or 10 hours one way to go to, Asia, where you go and you see these things. It's a joy, because traveling is broadening, and you can now compare and contrast your culture with another culture, and it brings a lot of information. I am only sorry I didn't do that much younger, because you learn so much, because we are culture carriers. Sports people are culture carriers. It's three ways which we learn, the scientist says: seeing, hearing, and doing. But we never saw in our young days the difference, for example, of how football players prepared for their game, how they train, how they behave. And by traveling, it allows you to see so much more that you can bring back and also help within your cultural context.
I never know what warm-up was.
That's it. And now the warm-up has different scientific names. You see? So it's I believe that we need to expose our youths to how the game is played overseas.
Aye.
Because on Sunday, you only see the final product, which was developed throughout the week.
Aye.
So when you see that as Sunday, you don't know how they get to that. So exposing the kids at an early age, we give them some more foundation to be that they can build on and make their chances much more.
You know, Lenny, John, things like practicing corners,
Yes.
you know, free kicks,
Yes.
you know, practicing it. Not when you get in the game and you have a free kick, you go take a free kick. You know, the way that they prepare for corners.
Yes.
Over and over and over, so that you worry when you see a team taking a corner now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because you're right there in the final third, a deflection or a move to create space so someone else can come in that space to nod home or to touch home. It's constant scientific movement and rehearsal where, as you can see, sometimes when the player is taking the corner, he puts his hand in the air and he tends to communicate to his field players that I'm going to do this. So that is another part of the science that has gone, has rocketed.
We never used to have the wrestling match either.
Yeah, and that is another aspect of the game that has, to me, has changed, Lenny. The grabbing and the holding and it's not called as a infringement.
Yes, 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 yes. That has creeped in and into the game, and whatever you can get away with, your coach will tell you, do it. You know, whatever you can get away with. But
I mean, I remember with my club back then, we did a lot of shooting drills too, you know, different in different situations.
yes,
And it was just part of our DNA, you know.
yes, yes, yes.
I tell you
I
what
remember,
I hated. I tell you what I hated though, Lenny. You see, when we didn't have a good game and the first evening of practice,
yes.
and coach kept the balls in the car.
You know what time it
You know, this evening, all you're going to do is run and drill.
know what
You know,
time
they
it
punish us for playing badly.
is. What time it is. You know what time it is. So this fantastic game has grown in the United States. So I tell you one thing, and you'll marvel. The number of youth players that are in programs in the United States is higher than the population of Holland.
Ooh.
Just think about that.
Ooh.
How the game is breaking.
Mm.
The whole total population, there are more youths playing soccer in the United States. So then now we have to start thinking, yes, what youths, what number, what percentage are from our community? What are we going to do about it so that in the next 10 years, when this boom comes, what percentage of our community can participate in this beautiful game? I think that's a serious question that we need to think about, and how we're going to play catch up from our community, and how we're going to, as colloquially will say, eat some of the football food that is going to in the United States.
Yes.
FIFA has now moved their part of their headquarters to Miami. So that move tells you that this is a big boost
Ah, yes.
Look at the World Cup. It's the American companies are at the forefront
Mm-hmm.
of the marketing of the World Cups.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? How are we not by doing as much as we should now will be able to catch up 5 to 10 years? Can you imagine next year's World Cup? How it's on the table of the American public. Look at the MLS, how they are built sports specific stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all of the teams are having full houses. What are we going to do within our community to participate in the multi-billion-dollar extravaganza, which is on its way?
I,
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's a serious discussion that must be made, and we have to speak about it.
all right, you're good.
Okay. So, what are we going to do? Well, we at Within Reach, which is a community-based organization, think they're doing the same type of work that Central Brooklyn Soccer is doing.
Uh-huh.
And we got to get busy in starting to make sure we not just play in our natural habitat,
Mm-hmm.
but we must now expose the kids across overseas so they can rapidly start, take this thing as serious because soccer is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's here to stay.
Let me ask you this though. Let's talk about our area in New York here.
Yes.
Over the years, I mean, several Caribbean leagues have started and died. Why have the Caribbean leagues have not been able to sustain a league?
I think it's too much of the old country, um, the culture of the old country, which is not taking it as a business, but just as a sport to have a little bit of fun, to old talk a little bit,
Mm.
drink drink 2 beers, and then you're gone home. Football is a business. Has to be run as a business, has to be developed as a business, and then you will be moving in the right direction. We have to leave what we did in the old country, the fun, and look at it as a first world business opportunities, whether it's training kids, whether it's preparing them, whether it's them using it as a vehicle for higher education. There must be a reason why we play the game. And now in America, we must use it as such. So to operate in that environment, but utilizing the environment of the Caribbean, it doesn't work very well.
Culturally, Lenny, we have a habit of saying the boy play too much. All he want to do is play.
Yes.
Okay. Even though
Yes.
it could be the next Messi or
Yes.
or Ronaldo, but
Yes.
all he want to do is play ball.
Yes.
And not
Yes.
recognizing that those geniuses are there and they are marked, for specific purposes in their life.
Yes.
And, how do we, at this stage, therefore, communicate to our people, cultural people, that those things that are as important as any other field of that you might want to push your child into. I mean, look at Usain Bolt, and maybe I'm sure when he was running, the public tell him run too much.
You have a valid point there. I mean, a valid point. And we live in an environment where academics play a very important role. It also do in the Caribbean. But if you strategically outline academics one, sports too, whether it's football or track too. And you need to give your academic responsibilities, take it serious, because now the sport can be a vehicle to take you to universities, that you can budget your time smartly so that, John, we had to do it. We are college graduates. We had to do it. And we've been around the block a couple of times. We're no spring chicken. And we did it in those days. Okay. We didn't have the computers. We didn't have them on your phone. You didn't have a ways of getting academics done. They both can be done today with discipline, organization. The child can get the academic done and also the sports done. And I certainly believe in that.
Let me take you to the Caribbean and specifically to Jamaica now. Lenny.
Yes.
It is my view that when I look at Jamaica's football, that our football federation has taken the easy road by going across the pond to get players to play internationally and not look at the talent that we have and try to develop the local talent. Because I think we have a lot of very talented youngsters at home. Your thoughts on that?
I will go further to say Jamaican football players are probably some of the most, they can match up with youth players anywhere in the world. It is there. It is just not harnessed early enough in a program setting. But Jamaica, ever since the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, all of the top coaches who came to Jamaica told us that we can match up with kids their age anywhere in the world. It is selection, training, programs. You can only improve if you have a program. So programming improve players, not coaches. I think these kids need to be identified a little bit earlier and put into programs, teaching them at that time about balancing school and sports, and give them the experience of seeing what other kids around the world are doing. How come you go play a foreign team, but it's the first time you're seeing them? You've never seen them at the 14-year level, 14 age level, but now you come to play under 17 is the first time you've seen those players. So your chances of losing is great. So we need to know and learn from our opponents earlier. Now, if we continue along this path to just look overseas for development, you're going to get the same sorts of results. Because remember, an international game, you don't see the kids or the players till probably 5 days or 6 days before competition.
But let me ask you this. Lenny. In Jamaica now, do we have to remove our talented 14 and 15-year-olds out of this Manning Cup and the Castor Cup situation into more in a more professional environment, that by the time they get to 17, 18, they probably are close to very good professional players.
You're hitting it right on the spot, right on the head. You've hit it. You've hit it. And this is exactly what I'm saying. Those tournaments are for more the people who that they are more for the alumni.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about development of football. It's enjoyment for the alumni.
Mm-hmm.
So those players has to be exposed much earlier in the international level so they can compete more, effectively on that. So yes, you have just, but it is so big and it is so strong, the Alumni Association, that I think just to get that part of that strong cultural context, that would be war.
Yes.
But I am sorry, you're going to have to change it up.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you can't play a competition, but you can't just use that as the only thing that's going to give us success internationally.
Mm.
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 Is success as a coach measured in only wins and losses?
No, the fans do, but from the coaching point of view and from the academic point of view, it shouldn't be. Because to develop the holistic, the human being factor. For example, the great man whose name is Edson Arantes do Nascimento, who I have the pleasure of spending 5 years or more with, one of his major philosophies is that the human being quality is more important than the game. If you build good human beings, you're going to build good athletes, and they will in turn win for you.
In your years of coaching, have you ever come across a player or players whom you think have the skills and the goods to be a good player, but just not measuring up?
Oh, yes. So that's the psychological part. And that part has to play an even role with the technical part. And how we get that done, you're going to learn that through coaching education. How do we motivate a child to be better than he thinks he is, or everybody thinks he is, to bring him to the top? And the good coach is going to spend some time on the human being factor to get that player believing in him, and he believe in you, and you're giving the right preparation. That's how he's going to become a superstar, because you're developing that part of his psyche also to be a good person.
Lenny.
I tell you, a part of my development, and I'm so happy that I was able to play the game for a little bit. I remember when I went to my club, early in my club life, I used to like to take on the defender and try to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach used to be shouting to me, "John, pass the ball, pass the ball." So one evening he said to me, "You think you can run faster than the ball?" I said, "Yes, coach." So the coach said to me, "Go." And I took off. And I see the ball rolling past me. And I said, "Okay, coach.
Oh, you win. You win.
I understand." Yeah.
Yes.
Lenny, one of my observation, when I was in Rosedale, Mike Duncan had a soccer league over there that he was, for the young kids, that he was managing at the time.
Yes.
On occasion, we would have these kids coming in from Long Island, another place to play over there, at off 147th Street there behind the high school, where you had the field.
Yes.
And I would look at the field. I would look at our Rosedale players on the field, Lenny, and I could tell the kids who came to play and they never had breakfast.
Yeah.
They jumped out of bed, grabbed their boot, grabbed their gear, and headed for the soccer field. And I would call them at me and say, did you guys have breakfast this morning? No.
That's one of the big things in the Caribbean. The nutrition, and teach them early how to understand proper nutrition.
Mhm.
You know, when that sun comes down and they're not prepared, they haven't had a nice little breakfast, you know, to come to the field. In 45 minutes, they're done already.
Yes.
Mhm.
Then they can't think. You know, I've seen it time and time and time and time, even today in the Caribbean. So there's a lot of things that, and this is why the technical development scheme program from Arsene Wenger, you guys can Google it, and you can see this fits some of the problems of the Caribbean. It fits some of the problems of the third world players, because it now gives funding for the youth players of the countries to be developed. And one of the development is to give them a, you know, good food so that they can grow and they can become better. Because a lot of time the households cannot give them that solid breakfast before they run off to training.
Yes.
Mhm.
So now with the technical development schemes, they're saying you need to have little food, you know, whether it's pre or post training, but they should get a nutritious meal. So FIFA now adds that to their budget in giving to the Caribbean islands. So they're doing a lot to help, because a poor player, a poor youth player, is going to make a poor senior player. He just have a lot more fitness and strength, but the thought process is not there. It's good for nothing. The game has changed. Let's look back to 1970, when that change started to come. You know, 66, you start seeing what they did with Pelé, and you start seeing the changes. 70, of course, remember, and a lot of people don't remember, 1970 is the birth of the yellow and red cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1970. It wasn't always there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You open landscape. I mean, openly you can foul or destroy a player.
Mm-hmm.
So now today, now with the health part of the sport is being protected, and FIFA is doing so much more now to make it a holistic, healthy game, physically and psychologically. You see. So this Central Brooklyn, I know my friend Stanley and his folks are working very, very hard in pulling the people, the young kids there, to start them early. That is good. But we also now must start giving them international exposure so they can become better. Because if we look into England, how many Caribbean players are playing in the Premier League?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a handful.
Mm-hmm.
And the league has always been there. And we has always been playing soccer. So what up? I mean, when you hear this type of money that these kids are making. So sometimes you look at it, you says, damn, if you're making 250,000 pounds a week, then, I mean, All the education you have not going to pay, that don't give you that money. So if the boy is really talented, you need to give him the opportunity to move forward and get what he needs to get done. Now, a good ball player without a smart person to handle the funding is six of one, half dozen of the other.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I believe that academic and sports must live in the same house.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because I know that way back then, when I was in high school, when we talk about taking O levels,
Yes.
there was a certain amount of passes that made you appear in the Gleaner.
Yes.
If you never got those, when you're looking for your name, you don't see your name, you know that you got a problem. And when it comes to time to choosing the subjects that you're going to take, one, they never wanted to overload you with too many subjects. Okay, so they would go for maybe your four best or your 4 or 5 best subjects. And those are what you're going to take in O levels, whether it be senior or Cambridge or Oxford. But, and your teachers are going to determine that they are not going to not have their best student taking their course. Okay? Because teachers are also being judged about their success rates. And if you're teaching for 3-4 years and you can't get one person past the O levels,
something is not right there.
Something is not right. Okay. So there's always that part influencing, the direction where the kids end up. That you're not he has to take my subject because he's my best student. Okay.
He's the best student.
Yes.
Right.
So
yes.
And I said to myself, well, if you think in terms of academics and you think in terms of sports, I have a sports director. Well, how many of your students are really making it to the major leagues? How many students are you producing that end up as on the Reggae Boys or on the cricket in the cricket league? I mean, what is your success? How do we measure your success as a sports director? Okay, whereas we know we had recess and we had PE. Okay, but at the end of the day, and you look at the schools who are participating in champs, and consistently you say, okay, see, Calabar, G.E. Foster, and you're calling names, and I say, well, I don't hear them mention Port Maria. They never once mentioned Titchfield. What about Morant Bay? Do they come to champs? You ask those questions, and we don't come back to an analytical platform that says, why is GC Foster always up front and KC and Calabar? What are they doing with their kids? What are they feeding their kids? Or are they training the kids where you don't have parity?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Lenny, you just mentioned the name Stan Harmon.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, I have invited Stan to be on this platform, but he has not given me a date yet because I know he takes kids to, I think it's Germany and Portugal, where they get some kind of training.
Yes.
So hopefully Stan will take advantage of this platform at some point.
Come on, Stan, step up. Stan Harmon was my captain at Medgar College.
Mm-hmm.
When he graduated, he was my assistant coach.
Mm.
When I moved to Florida, he became the head coach. So I know he's dedicated to
not dedicated. He eats and sleeps football. And that is Stan. Yeah, but I'll get him. I'll get him here, Lenny.
I'm sure now that I am on, he's gonna want to come on.
But Lenny, there was a time I had a team over in St. Thomas that Jetty was coaching.
Yes.
Also FC, And at one stage, his team was doing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And I decided to get them outfitted with real soccer gear. So,
Yes.
as from a sponsorship level, jerseys,
Yes.
shorts, socks, and finally, boots. Now,
Ha.
Lenny, when they say boots, after
It's a
these
big
kids,
one.
I've never worn boots. On many occasions, you see one guy wearing the left foot and the other one with the right foot. And two different kids are wearing the same, splitting the boots between them.
Yes.
And so we finally got them all boots. And
Wonderful.
when they went to play the game, the whole community turned out because they're watching a real soccer team going to the field dressed out as a team.
Yes.
And Lenny said, and Jetty said, Trevor, at halftime, his striker had 3 goals. Halftime.
Yes.
And him said, Trevor, he said, came to me and said, Coach, take me off now, man. Take me off now. He said, take you off. What do you mean take you off? It's just halftime. He said, Coach, me don't want to match up my boots. Okay. Another time, he said, Trevor, man, come and say, where's your boots? He said, Coach, me don't have my boots. He said, what do you mean you don't have the boots? He said, Coach, I was hungry. I sold the boots. So I am saying this just to point out the two sides of the coin.
Yes.
One man, his boots was priceless. And the other man, he was hungry.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But Lenny, you have coached in the Caribbean.
Sure.
What is that experience like, coaching in the Caribbean?
Coaching in one island is no different than coaching in the other island. So if you have an idea of what takes place in Jamaica, it's the same thing that takes place in the islands. Yeah. And the culture has it, has arrested it, and you have to fight to get it to let go of the old culture and bringing in the new. It is a difficult thing to do to coach in the islands. It's not easy. Make you a better coach, yes, because you have to come up with innovative ideas to do things. Because you will flatly get no just to try new things. It's holding on to the old ways. And this is why the TDS is an important program, because it's going to the kids at an organized level. And if they get 15, 16, and you don't have them out of the old ways, you're going to have problems, because it's not going to work. And the problems is competing with people outside who have changed. I think we're a little bit stubborn in changing the ways to train and play. And our results are not being very good, but still we refuse to change. And it's a struggle before you get it that way. And even when you get it, it reverts back to the old way. So this is why this program is so important, to have coaches that are trained in a different way with the kids who now is young enough to not fight it, but to absorb it. We've got the speed, we've got the strength, we have the rhythmic expressions, everything that is needed to be good football players, we have. It just seems, though, that we excel more in individualistic games, more so than group games.
Hmm.
Well, for one thing, I think we practice more individualistic games. And I say that because I remember at another point, we had a team in Port Antonio, Kakata Park, that Jetty was over there coaching. And when he came over, we said, okay, Jesse, what is your biggest need right now? What is your biggest need where the team is concerned? Because we know they had shirts and all. He said, Trevor, ball time. Ball time. He said, Trevor, you know what it's like when you have 40 players and you only have 2 balls?
Can't work.
Can't work. So when he was going on, I think it took down 25 balls with him. So he could split them up into groups of 8 and they got touches, more touches on the ball.
And if I can tell you, the 8 is too much. You know what's that?
Right.
I was 1 ball, 1 player.
Mhm. Hmm. You have traveled to a lot of countries, Lenny. Which
Yes.
country have you enjoyed most visiting?
That is hard. If it relates to the ball, it's Brazil and latter date into Asia, because they have found a new friend, a new toy, and they're going at 100 miles per hour to go into facilities and see 15, 20 different, neatly manicured football field with indoor fields, with outdoor full fields, to see kids broken down in age, the under 10, under 12, under 14, under 16, boys and girls. And they're dealing with it like they're going to school. They have their balls with their bags, with their books inside, with their extra changer uniform, with their drink cups. So I enjoy what they're doing in Asia, because they're putting everything out because they want it. They want it. So yes, the old game is in Europe. The old game is in Europe, and it's never going to change. It's the breadbasket of football,
Mm.
the breadbasket. And now my favorite place is Germany. One of the reasons is that everyone is allowed to play within the social norms.
Mm.
Everyone is given an opportunity to play. And if you look at the television today and you watch a Bundesliga football, you will find people from other parts of Germany, a ton of people from Africa. You have the Americans now that are going in. Yeah. So it is their culture now is opening up the doors to find the best players that they possibly can. We're doing great in America, but the kids of the underserved communities are not getting as much as they should or could get. So I take the fact to say, John, that getting underserved kids from the community and help them in whatever way you can, I think it's where the next Pelé can be. Rational. Pelé says he taught Michael Jordan hang time. Because
To hit that ball.
when he jumps up to hit that ball,
Yeah.
he's suspense and hanging there, so that while the defenders are coming down, he's deciding which part of the goal to nod it.
Mm.
The American athletes from the underserved community has so much going for them. Look at basketball, football, the different sports. Could you imagine if they can put some of that to soccer? How much more we could take the game?
Yes.
So that needs to be opened up. And until it's done properly, we have to start exposing them in these places like Europe, like what I'm doing in Germany, to make sure that early introduction ensures early proficiency.
Mm.
What impact do you think a Bunny Shaw is having on women's soccer right now in the Caribbean and maybe across the world?
Tremendous. Tremendous. We just need more Bunny Shaws.
Yes.
If we can have one, we can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on.
Yes.
It is too much time in between when one has developed to the second or the third one. So the program is spitting out the players as quickly as it needs to. But it's better start with one, and we can have that identity and we can work forward. My friend, I will tell you something first, that today, one of the kids that I work with has signed in Germany.
Okay.
And another one is waiting for the go, because they both went together. Now we are marketing to take about 20 of these kids throughout the United States and the Caribbean, to give them an opportunity to be seen. Okay. We've got to give them those experience, and I always laud the young man from Phoenix in Jamaica, irregardless of what folks say.
Mr. Butler.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
He's putting players under the eyes of people who have the authority to make decisions. And this is what I am doing now, and my group of Within Reach Soccer. We want to put the kids in front of the ones who can make the decision. If we can find them at 16, 17, 15, to go into the European academies and to accelerate their development, so by 19, they can become a professional. With the advent now of computers, which you can take your education wherever in the world that you go, you have no excuse not to be on par with your academics. But we need to give our kids power. So this year, this is the fourth year of this program. And Stan Harmon works in conjunction with us with that program. And we would like, the people from the Caribbean, whether it's businessmen, whoever you are, contribute to the youths so they can get to where they need to get to early. Not 21, not 22, not 23. The age of a professional football player is from 18 to 30, with few exceptions. So this is a young man's game, it's a young woman's game.
When it comes to when it comes to summer camps or soccer camps,
yes,
how prevalent are they at this time, and what would it cost to sponsor a child in a soccer camp for the summer?
Okay, if you're going to an international camp, of course it's going to be more.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we have done is to find out that there are some programs, by being a non-profit organization, in which you can find ways of economically getting it done. Yeah, so that cost, which is much higher, can be much lesser. But if you go to camp in the States for 4 or 5 weeks, the total amount which you pay is always almost what you would pay for an international camp. What do you get? You have to determine what you want and what you want to get. If you want to keep it closer to professionalism, or it's a place to leave the kids while mom and pop go to work. So you gotta decide and figure out what you want and what's gonna take you there. And this is one of the things now, moving back from coaching is moving more into, working in this area where we can get more of our kids at the right place and at the right time. You cannot be a professional player if you're going to Joe Blow camp up there in Connecticut somewhere, and mom just wants you to spend some time because she's got to go to work. And the camp man is saying, well, hey, this is some way of making some money. Nothing against money. But with our community, we need to be more thoughtful and create opportunities for our children.
Is there any online training that is taking place now when it comes to young kids in soccer? I know they spend a lot of time watching soccer matches, which is always there, but I'm talking about coaching sessions or webinars where they can actually register and sign in and sit in for the sessions.
There are some, but the game you learn by doing, and that's how you learn football, by doing.
You need to come into the picture, Lenny.
Okay. You learn the game by doing, more so. So that can help somewhat, but it wouldn't help you master the natural part of the game, the hybrid part of the game, which you need. Because if you're going to go to a Division I school, they're going to take the best possible players they can find.
Yes.
So if you don't prepare the best way, you're not in that equation. And if you want to be drafted, get to a good school, be drafted to get into the MLS, you got to get into some sort of hybrid training 12, 13, 14 years old. So the investment is one that is deep, but it depends on what you want. So it's different folks for different strokes for different folks, but I speak of football. You have a coach and you have a technical director. A coach worry about wins from game to game. A technical director develops the next generation.
I don't know if you're not a young man by the name of Kyle who was in Queens. I think he's playing for the Red Bulls now.
Probably not.
Okay, he was a part of the Mike Duncan soccer league over there at a young age. Might be about 13 or 14 at the time.
Okay.
And I think he had good promise, and he was pulled into the camps over there in England or one of these European countries. But not only that, you see, when they identified the talent, they took the entire family.
Yes.
Speak to that.
Yes. Well, if you're a top level player and you're discovered, say in the United States, someone discovered you from England, or FIFA now says if the boy is not, say, 18 years old, he's not allowed to travel without his parents. His parents has to move with him, or one of the parents, to get a job. And it's also, that was a major part to prevent the black what they call it now. People used to steal players.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so FIFA now has stopped that,
With an
and
age limit.
they make an age limit, or they make some special emphasis.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, until you're 18, you must attend school.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You must attend school. So now it's a little bit better than how it used to be in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've brought, to date, I have given, and the organization have given about 75 young players opportunity to train in Europe.
Okay.
Out of that, we've got some low-level professionals, but they're
Mm-hmm.
young.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of those kids become a good player, you know, his salary alone can help another 25 kids go through the same system.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so we've got to be able to start, we can ask for help, but you also have to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about education and football, I go back to 19, I think it was about 65, when this a Brazilian team, I think it was Olario, came to Jamaica.
Yes.
And they wanted to take back a good friend of mine who was about 15, 16
Still.
Yes.
with him. And his mother said, not my 15-year-old. Yeah.
And it's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
Parents don't want to do it, but some kids are built for this,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to give them the early exposure. That is a
Mm-hmm.
must.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do that, and there is even taught now, and I can give you one more. They are thinking now about using the colleges to put professional soccer in the college as they're doing in the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
And the basketball teams are being paid now. They're
Yes.
drafting up something now for soccer. And we feel
Mm-hmm.
within the next 2 years, the colleges are going to be franchises of soccer in the United
Okay.
States. That's been worked on today.
That's interesting news. Very interesting news.
So
And
this academic sports, I mean, they're really putting it together. The
yeah.
players will be paid, they're on contract. You know what they're doing with NCAA already.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So they're moving it towards soccer. And in order now to get to those colleges, you're going to have to be a good football player.
Uh-huh.
So, so it's everything is moving and changing. So we got to get with the program.
Aye. Yes.
And
We have to
on
get.
that note, Lenny, I have to say thanks for joining John Sports Corner. And certainly, I know we'll be in touch, but I have to say good luck for the rest of your career.
John, you're a legend. Continue doing the work you're doing. And it's always a pleasure to be with you.
And
So,
I love to talk football with you, Lenny.
absolutely,
Because let me tell
absolutely.
you, have a wealth of knowledge and exposure to the game that I don't
Yes.
even come close to.
Well, I got lucky. I got lucky. Not extra smarts or anything, but I got lucky to be around the right people as a
Mhm.
young man, and I was able to humble myself and learn as much as I could.
Thank you so much, Lenny. Good luck.